So here's a tutorial on how to do the front squat to improve your performance, to stay safe, and some tweaks and tricks on how to get the most out of it, especially if you got some nagging aches and pains. All right, so front squat, obviously a great variation. When it comes to squat variations, when we put them into our programming, great for specifically, to work the quads more. It's a very quad dominant one, especially when it's done right. But the thing about the front squats is that many people, can't get into the right positions to do them. So I'm gonna take you through kind of like our teaching process for the front squat. And also, some tweaks and you can see these straps on here, which I'm gonna show you guys later. But, what are the things that we want to look for, right? So the initial front squat is, first, when it comes to squatting, we just have to think about foot position. And I always say, like, the fastest way to just figure out your foot stance is to do bodyweight squats and go different, whether it's shoulder width apart, toes out a little bit. How does that feel? Do you go a little bit wider? Does that feel better? Feels pretty damn good to me, right? If you go narrower. And so you'll see, like, right now, this is probably the stance that feels the best for me. And you're gonna go like, oh, cool. That's probably what your anatomy is like, right? So everybody's squat is gonna be a little bit different. So that's just in general, whether it's front squat, back squat, whatever it may be, okay? But we do wanna start there just to know our stances. Then if you do have I would say the positioning to where you can do a Frankenstein squat, right? Frankenstein squat is where we're basically kind of sitting into our clavicles here, right? Wanna make sure I move that mic. And we're just walking it out. Now we wanna keep our knees soft here, right? Mistake on the front squats is that people start with their hips back. We wanna start with knees soft and forward and then butt going down. Right, and stand as upright as possible, driving those elbows up, okay? And again, that's a Frankenstein position, which you can then cross over and just keep thumbs on the bar, right? Your fingertips on the bar to guide it, and driving those elbows up at all times, right? So soft knees, butt goes straight down. I'm driving my elbows up and just looking forward with my eyes on a point of contact, okay? And the thing about that is that becomes, there are many people that don't have good, I would say, thoracic mobility, which we'll talk about later, right? Or pretty rounded shoulders, this forward neck posture. The bar is gonna wanna slide down. So again, that can become a challenge. And sure, there is, cues that can work on that from, again, keeping those elbows up, keeping the head, like, think about somebody's measuring you, right? I always say, like, think about somebody's measuring you. You wanna be as tall as possible, okay? Those could be solutions, but again, many times that's not gonna be enough for somebody, and that's where we would bring in the strap solution, right? And with straps, what we can do is loop them around, get them into that same position as we would have our Frankenstein, right? Come underneath, and now, I'm gonna move that mic out of the way. I'm going to go and keep the elbows up, because now the wrists are not a limiting factor for me, right? So here, and I'm gonna keep driving them up. I'm grabbing onto the straps. And you can actually see that slid down a little bit. Okay, so driving up. Either way, again, that can also be limited by, again, mobility, because we have to keep our elbows up. Now, you'll see that the clean position, right? So the clean position, honestly, for most general population clients, is the position where you actually have your fingers back here, right? And you're set. You can see I set my fingers up. I'm gonna go in, and now I'm in this position. Again, this is perfectly fine if you have the wrist mobility, that finger mobility, that shoulder and thoracic mobility to do that. Again, you can see that, like, it's actually decently challenging for me to do that, because now if my wrist is restricted, it's gonna be difficult to get my elbows up and have that thoracic extension, right? And if I started going heavier and heavier, that position would start being challenging for me. So you have to find which position here is gonna be the best position for that person to be able to go heavy. Now, the other thing you might have noticed is that, I'm gonna put this right here, is if somebody's ankles and hips are tight, they're gonna have to lean forward, right? And it's the front squat is a self-limiting, I would say, exercise, because if you lean too far forward, the weight's gonna fall off, right? And it's gonna limit you. And that's where wedges come into play, because again, the goal of a front squat is for us to be as upright as possible, right? So this wedge is not crazy tall, but again, if we would have a client that was leaning over too much, we would go into this position, get onto the wedge, right? So we got a little bit of help on this. And now, again, knees forward, we can stay more upright. You can see how much more upright I am with that. And we could even go up as high as, again, 20, 30 degrees on that to be able to do that, right? Because again, let's keep the goal as upright of a squat as possible, which is what the front squat is. Now, there are mobility drills. I want to show you one real quick. Like if we can add more rotation and extension to our upper back, it is with time going to help us with front squats. So I'll just give you guys two different drills that you can work on here. One being these, I would say, extensions. You can do these with a dowel. You can do it without the dowel, where I can even grab my hands, sit back, drive my elbows down. And from here, I'm going to inhale into my upper back. So I'm going to exhale through my mouth and then inhale into my upper back to my nose. Right, and I would just do that for reps. Open up my lats and work on that upper thoracic extension. Or we could even go, and again, I could do this with a dowel, with a stick, where I'm gonna go rotate. I would be squeezing a foam roller here so I don't rotate my low back. Inhale. And I try to get 3 inhalations, 3 exhalations to get as much rotation each side. Again, I'd probably squeeze a metaball foam roller so that I'm not rotating my low back, I'm getting my core engaged. Right? And those could be, again, mobility filler drill, warm-up drills before you do the front squats. But that's gonna take some time, obviously, to develop. And in the meantime, you wanna find the best variation possible. Now, I'll be back in a second and show you like one of my favorite front squat variations with a different bar. Now, it does take a specialty bar to do these, but I think the specialty bar is very, very effective. It's a safety squat bar, not just for squats, back squats, but for front squats, and I'll show you guys how to do that. All right, so this is a great, so safety squat bar, obviously they're great for back squats, but even for front squats, I think the first time I saw this was from Joe Ken, and we got folks that can't do regular, I would say, regular bar front squats, but these feel great. You know, depending on, again, somebody's, I would say, neck size, that might be a restriction. But in general, you're sliding in here and you have the pads that feel comfortable. And from here, I'm gonna lift off and it feels much more comfortable. And just the levers are very, very different, right? So one, I can kind of push it in here. I don't have that much of a kind of shoulder restriction. I can give myself, I would say, this stability with my hands. And this feels just much more comfy. And again, I can load the hell out of it. And I won't have as much limiting factors with thoracic extension, shoulder tightness, things of that nature, right? Again, this we plug this in a lot into our programming. That's set up very nicely, as you can see. And if that one didn't work, you can still go with, I would say, a Smith machine front squat. But the thing is, the moment that you have very kind of tight rounded shoulders, front squats just become a very hard variation. Now, this does solve it a little bit, right? The safety bar does solve that quite a bit. Now, you know, if you're at home, I would say safety squat bars are great regardless, because if you have shoulder issues, you can do back squats with your safety squat bar, and you can now do front squats with them as well as a good, I would say, solution, right? So again, front squats, awesome solution. Today, more so on the tutorial on like the upper part of it, because the lower sequencing is the same as we would, you know, teach any squat, double kettlebell squat, back squat, so on and so forth. Unless it's a box squat and we're pushing the hips back further. So those are the you can either go Frankenstein, you can go crossed, over position, you can go with a clean grip, right? You can go with the straps, or you can go with the safety squat bar position, and see which one fits you the best. Because again, it is a great exercise, especially very good quad dominant exercise that we use a ton, but you're either going to have to, continue to improve. You can solve the ankle and hip mobility issue with raising the wedges, but wrist, shoulders, and upper back, again, those are things you'd have to work on mobility, and some just might not come along for the ride as fast enough, and so you got to find that right solution. Okay, so definitely plug in front squats if you can use one of these, and for more tips like this, make sure to subscribe to this channel.